They stole a human colony ship. The aliens never had a chance, Commander. Vextar pressed his clawed hand against the cold metal wall of the human ship. The new horizon was bigger than anything his people had ever stolen before. It was a prize. That would make him famous across the Zephyrian Empire. For 3 months, his raiders had followed this ship through the dark space between stars. The humans inside were sleeping in their cold boxes, completely helpless. They would not wake up. For another 2 years, it was perfect timing for a raid. Vextar looked at his team of 20 elite warriors. Each one wore the best armor their empire could make. Their weapons could cut through steel like paper. Their eyes had been changed with machines to see in the dark. They were the best soldiers the Zephyrian Empire had ever created. Remember, Vextar told his team through their helmet radios, we want the ship and the humans alive. Dead slaves are worth nothing. The ship's computer systems will teach us how humans build their faster-than-light engines. The boarding tunnel connected with a soft click. Vextar's scanners showed normal air on the other side. The human ship was keeping itself warm and comfortable. For no one. How wasteful these creatures were. The airlock door opened with a quiet hiss. The Zephyrians moved into the human ship like shadows. Their feet made no sound on the metal floor. Their training had prepared them for this moment for years. The first thing Vextar noticed was how clean everything looked. Human ships were supposed to be dirty and poorly maintained. But these walls were spotless. Strange symbols glowed with soft blue light along the ceiling. They did not look like normal human writing. Sir, whispered Kreltos, his second-in-command, these corridors are wider than our scans showed. The ship readings we took from outside were wrong. Vextar frowned. His people had the best scanning equipment in the galaxy. It never made mistakes like that. But he pushed the worry away. Humans were young and stupid. They probably just built their ships in confusing ways. The team moved deeper into the ship. The corridors seemed to stretch on forever. Sometimes they turned left when Vextar was sure they should turn right. The map on his scanner kept changing. First it showed they were on Deck 5, then Deck 7, then back to Deck 5 again. Navigation error, Vextar muttered. Human ships always have broken computers. But the sounds were what bothered him most. The ship was supposed to be empty except for sleeping humans. Yet he could hear things moving in the walls, mechanical sounds, like machines working. Sometimes he thought he heard voices talking quietly in the distance. Just the life support systems, he told himself. Old human technology makes too much noise. His team reached a large open area filled with strange machines. The floor was covered with thick cables that pulsed with electricity. Banks of computers lined the walls, all showing streams of data in human writing. This must be their main computer room, said Kreltos. We can learn everything about human technology from here. But when they tried to access the computers, nothing worked. The screens showed only one message in simple galactic trade language. Access denied. Please try again later, Vextar snarled. Blast open the computer cores. We will take the memory units back to our ship. His warriors raised their plasma cutters. But before they could fire, all the lights went out. The room became completely dark. Even their night vision could not see anything. Emergency lighting clicked on a few seconds later. But now the room looked different. The computers had moved. The cables on the floor formed new patterns. Some of his warriors were standing in different places than before. Sir, one warrior said in a shaky voice, I do not remember walking over here. Vextar felt the first cold touch of fear, but he was a commander. He could not show weakness to his troops. Human tricks, he said firmly. They have hidden defense systems. We move to the sleeping chambers now. The map showed the cryogenic bay was just down the main corridor. It should have taken 10 minutes to walk there, but somehow they walked for 30 minutes and never found it. The corridors kept turning in directions that made no sense. Twice, they passed the same maintenance door. 3 times they walked by, a window that showed the exact same view of stars. Finally, they found a large door marked with human symbols. Vexitar's translator said it meant Cryogenic Bay 1. This had to be where the sleeping humans were kept. The door opened easily. Too easily. Vextar expected locks, alarms, and defense systems. Instead, the door simply slid open when they approached. Inside was a room the size of a small city, thousands of sleeping pods arranged in perfect rows. Each pod had a small window and a control panel. But when Vextar looked through the first window, he saw nothing but empty space. He ran to the next pod. Empty. The next one. Empty. Every pod in the entire room was empty. The humans were gone. "This is impossible," Kreltos said. "Our scans showed life signs. Thousands of them." Vextar checked his own scanner. It still showed thousands of humans on the ship. But they were not here. The scanner said they were everywhere, and nowhere at the same time. A soft sound made everyone turn. One of the empty pods was closing its lid. Then another. Then 10 more. Soon dozens of pods were opening and closing by themselves. The sound echoed through the huge room like ghostly applause. "Sir, we should leave," whispered a warrior. But Vexatar saw something that made his blood freeze. On the wall was a huge screen showing security camera footage. The footage showed his own team entering the ship an hour ago. But in the video, they were not alone. Humans in dark clothing were following them, hiding in shadows, watching from air vents. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They had been there the whole time, and the Zephyrians had never seen them. The screen changed to show text in galactic trade language. "Welcome to the New Horizon. Population, 50,000 humans, 20 confused Zephyrians. We hope you enjoy your stay. Dinner is served at 1800 hours. Please do not feed the humans." Below that, a counter appeared. Days since last accident, 0. Days since Zephyrian raid began, 0. Days, until Zephyrians realized their mistake. Unknown. Vextar tried to contact his ship. Static. He tried again. More static. The humans had somehow cut off their communications. His elite raiders were trapped on a ship full of creatures they had completely underestimated. In the quiet that followed, he heard something that chilled him to his bones. Laughter. Human laughter. Coming from the walls themselves. It was not cruel or angry. It sounded almost friendly. Like parents watching children play a game they did not understand. The last thing Vextar saw before the lights went out again was more text on the screen. Game on. When the lights came back on, half of his warriors were gone. The others stood, in a tight circle, weapons raised, looking at empty space. No one had heard anything. No one had seen anything. The humans had taken his people as quietly as ghosts. Vextar realized he had made the biggest mistake of his career. He had not captured a helpless colony ship. He had walked into a trap set by 50,000 of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy, and they were just getting started. They stole a human colony ship. The aliens never had a chance. Captain Marcus Chen crept through the air vent like a spider moving through its web. 40 years of military training had taught him to move without making sound. Below him, 2 Zephyrian raiders searched a storage room with their weapons ready. The aliens were good soldiers. Chen could see that from their movements. They covered each other properly. They checked corners. They communicated with hand signals when their radios stopped working. But they had one big problem. They did not know they were fighting inside a living machine. The New Horizon was not just a ship. It was humanity's most advanced piece of technology. Every wall could move. Every corridor could change. Every room could become a trap. The ship's computer, Athena, had been watching the Zephyrians since they came aboard. She knew where each one was at all times. Chen touched his earpiece. "Athena, close ventilation shaft 7 after I pass through. Closing shaft 7 in 10 seconds, Captain," the computer's voice whispered in his ear. Chen crawled past the opening and heard the soft click of the shaft closing behind him. Now the 2 Zephyrians were trapped in that room. They would find the door locked, the air vents sealed. They would have to wait there until humans decided to let them out. This was how the war had been going for 3 days. The Zephyrians had come aboard expecting to fight farmers and scientists. Instead, they found themselves fighting people who had spent their whole lives preparing for the worst things the universe could throw at them. Dr. Elena Vasquez was working in her laboratory 2 decks below. She had been studying alien biology since humans first met other species. Now she was using that knowledge in ways she had never planned. The air system on the ship could be controlled from her lab. She had created a special gas that would not hurt humans but would make Zephyrians very sleepy. She had tested it on the first few prisoners they caught. It worked perfectly. Athena, she said while mixing chemicals. Release sleep gas into sections 12 through 15. Low concentration. We want them drowsy, not unconscious. Gas release in progress, Doctor. Estimated effect time, 4 minutes. Elena smiled. The Zephyrians had better senses than humans. Their improved eyes could see in the dark. Their enhanced hearing could pick up the smallest sounds, but their strong senses also made them more sensitive to chemicals in the air. What would barely affect a human would make them dizzy and confused. Chief. Engineer Rosa Okafor was having the most fun she had experienced in years. The Zephyrians had tried to take control of the ship's engine room. They thought if they controlled the power, they could control everything. They were wrong. Rosa had spent 30 years working on ships that traveled between stars. She knew every wire, every circuit, and every backup system. When the aliens took the main engine room, she simply switched to backup control. "Let's see how they like this," she muttered, pressing buttons on her hidden control panel. The gravity in the engine room suddenly became 3 times stronger. The Zephyrian raiders, who were used to lighter gravity, were pressed to the floor. They could barely move. Their armor, which was light on their home planet, now felt like it weighed hundreds of pounds. Rosa waited until they stopped struggling, then turned the gravity back to normal. The aliens lay on the floor, gasping for air. Before they could recover, automated systems sprayed them with the same sleep gas Elena had created. "Athena," Rosa said, "send cleaning robots to collect our guests in the engine room." Robots dispatched, Chief Okafor. Estimated collection time, 6 minutes. The humans were not just fighting with technology. They were fighting with their minds. Dr. James Wright was the ship's psychologist. His job was supposed to be helping colonists deal with the stress of traveling to a new world. Now he was studying the aliens who had invaded their home. Wright had been watching the Zephyrian prisoners through security cameras. He learned that they were used to quick battles that ended with total victory or total defeat. They did not know how to handle a long, slow fight where the enemy never appeared directly. The Zephyrians were getting scared. Wright could see it in the way they moved. They jumped at small sounds. They fired their weapons at shadows. Some of them were talking to themselves. Fear was making them sloppy. "They are breaking down faster than I expected," Wright told Captain Chen during their daily meeting. "Their training prepared them for space battles and quick raids, not for this kind of psychological warfare." Chen nodded. "How long before they give up?" "Some of them already want to surrender," Wright said, "but their commander is holding them together. Take him out of the picture, and the rest will fold within hours." Meanwhile, the ship's teenagers were turning out to be the most effective fighters of all. 16-year-old Lisa Volkov had been raised in space. She understood the ship's systems better than most adults. While the Zephyrians stumbled through corridors that kept changing, she moved through the ship like it was her own body. Lisa had hacked into the aliens' communication system. She was listening to everything they said to each other. She knew their plans before they made them. When they decided to attack the hydroponics bay, she was waiting with a trap. The Zephyrians entered the garden room expecting to find food supplies they could steal. Instead, they found themselves in a maze of fast-growing vines that wrapped around their legs. The plants had been modified to grow quickly when they detected alien DNA. By the time the raiders cut themselves free, Lisa had already sealed all the exits. They were trapped in a room full of plants that kept trying to grab them. The psychological effect was devastating. Several of the aliens had panic attacks. David Park was only 14, but he had been studying military history since he was 6 years old. He knew that the best way to defeat an enemy was to make them defeat themselves. David had programmed the ship's speakers to play sounds at random times. Footsteps in empty corridors, doors opening and closing, human voices saying things like, "Over here," and "behind you" in the Zephyrian language. The aliens were always turning around, always looking over their shoulders. They wasted energy and ammunition shooting at sounds that were not there. They became exhausted from constantly being on alert. Commander Vextar tried to keep his troops organized, but it was getting harder every day. He had started with 20 elite warriors. Now he had 8 scared soldiers who jumped at every shadow. The worst part was that the humans never killed anyone. Every Zephyrian who disappeared was captured alive. They were kept in comfortable rooms with good food and medical care. The humans even gave them books to read and games to play. This kindness was almost more frightening than violence would have been. Vextar had been prepared for battle. He had been prepared to die with honor. He had not been prepared to be treated like a naughty child who needed to be put in time out. On the fourth night, Vextar made a decision that would change everything. He was going to try to contact his ship. If he could call for backup, maybe he could still win this battle. He did not know that the humans had been waiting for him to try exactly that. They had a much bigger surprise planned for the Zephyrian Empire. They stole a human colony ship. The aliens never had a chance. Lisa Volkov crouched in front of a control panel that had not existed yesterday. At 17, she was the youngest engineering genius humanity had ever produced. While other teenagers worried about dating in college, Lisa designed machines that could think. The panel she was building would change everything. It was connected to the Zephyrian commander's personal communicator, which they had quietly stolen, while he was sleeping. Soon Vexatar would try to call his ship for help. When he did, Lisa would be listening to everything. "Athena," she whispered to the ship's computer. "Is the signal interceptor ready? All systems operational, Lisa. The commander's communication device is now under our control. He will never know we are listening." Lisa smiled. The Zephyrians thought humans were primitive because they did not have fancy cybernetic implants or energy weapons that could destroy planets. What the aliens did not understand was that humans were really good at stealing other people's technology and making it better. 2 decks away, Dr. Elena Vasquez was working on her most ambitious project yet. She had been studying the Zephyrian prisoners for a week. Now she understood exactly how their enhanced bodies worked. The aliens had surgically improved their eyes, their reflexes, and their strength. These improvements made them excellent soldiers on most worlds. But Elena had found a weakness. All of their enhancements were controlled by small computers implanted in their brains. Elena had created a sound frequency that interfered with those computers. It would not hurt the Zephyrians, but it would make their enhancements stop working. Their super-strong muscles would feel weak. Their perfect vision would become blurry. Their lightning-fast reflexes would slow down to normal speeds. "This should level the playing field," Elena muttered while she programmed the ship's speakers. "Let's see how tough they are when they have to fight with regular biology." Chief Engineer Rosa Okafor was having the time of her life in the ship's main workshop. Scattered around her were pieces of Zephyrian armor and weapons that the humans had quietly collected from their sleeping prisoners. Rosa had figured out how the alien technology worked. Their armor was powered by tiny fusion reactors. Their weapons used compressed plasma for ammunition. Their communication devices used quantum entanglement to send messages instantly across space. "Incredible," Rosa said to her assistant Tom Bradley. "This technology is at least 50 years ahead of ours, but they built it so poorly." Tom raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Look at this plasma rifle," Rosa said, holding up an alien weapon. "The power source is amazing, but they designed it to only work with Zephyrian DNA. One small modification to the scanner, and now it works for humans too." Rosa had been modifying captured alien equipment all week. She had turned their armor into better protection for human defenders. She had reprogrammed their weapons to fire stun blasts instead of deadly plasma. Most importantly, she had cracked the code for their faster-than-light communication system. Dr. James Wright was conducting the strangest therapy session of his career. Sitting across from him was Kreltos, the Zephyrian second-in-command. The alien had asked to speak with someone after spending 3 days in comfortable captivity. "I do not understand your species," Kreltos said in broken galactic trade language. "Why have you not killed us? We came to steal your ship and enslave your people." Wright leaned back in his chair. "Because killing you would not solve anything. We want to understand why you attacked us. Maybe we can find a way to prevent future attacks." "You are weak," Kreltos said, but he did not sound convinced. "Strong species take what they want. Weak species get taken." "Is that what your people taught you?" Wright asked gently. For the first time since his capture, Kreltos looked uncertain. "Yes, The Zephyrian Empire is strong because we take from others. We have conquered dozens of worlds. But you failed to conquer one human ship, Wright pointed out. What does that make us? Kreltos had no answer for that. Captain Chen was in the ship's command center, watching dozens of screens that showed every part of the New Horizon. Only 6 Zephyrian raiders were still free. Commander Vextar and 5 of his warriors were trapped in a section of the ship that kept changing around them. Chen had to admit he felt a little sorry for them. The aliens had been walking in circles for 2 days. Every time they thought they found an exit, the corridors rearranged themselves. They had food and water, but their morale was completely broken. "Captain," said Lisa's voice through the communication system, "the commander is trying to contact his ship now. Put it on the main screen," Chen ordered. The screen lit up with an image of Commander Vexatar speaking urgently into his communicator. He was telling his ship that the humans were much more dangerous than expected. He was requesting immediate backup and evacuation. But the voice answering him was not from the Zephyrian ship. It was Athena, the New Horizons computer, using a perfect imitation of a Zephyrian military operator. "Message received, Commander," Athena said in flawless Zephyrian language. "Backup is not available at this time. Continue your mission." Vexatar looked confused. "What do you mean backup is not available? Send battleships immediately." "Negative, Commander. The Empire has new orders for your mission. You are to negotiate with the humans instead of capturing them." Chen grinned. Lisa had programmed Athena to study recordings of Zephyrian military communications from their prisoners. The computer could now speak like a perfect Zephyrian officer. Vextar was getting angry. "I demand to speak with Admiral Thakron immediately." "The Admiral is in a meeting with the High Council," Athena responded smoothly. "He left orders that you should establish peaceful contact with the human colony ship. Violence is no longer authorized." The plan was working perfectly. The humans were making Vextar think his own empire had abandoned him. Without hope of rescue, he would have to consider surrender. But the real surprise was still coming. Rosa had finished modifying the Zephyrian faster-than-light communicator. For the first time in 2 years, the New Horizon could contact Earth. The message Rosa sent was not a cry for help. It was a warning. She transmitted everything they had learned about Zephyrian technology, military tactics, and invasion plans. She sent detailed scans of their ships and weapons. Most importantly, she sent proof that the Zephyrian Empire could be defeated by humans who were prepared for them. "Earth Command, this is the colony ship New Horizon," Rosa said into the transmitter. "We have successfully repelled a Zephyrian raid and captured their technology. Recommend immediate preparation for larger invasion force, sending all intelligence data now." The response from Earth came back within minutes. "New Horizon, this is Admiral Sarah Torres. Holy shit, you actually beat them? Stand by for instructions." 16-year-old David Park was in charge of the final phase of the plan. His job was to convince the remaining Zephyrians to surrender without anyone getting hurt. David had been studying alien psychology with Dr. Wright. He understood that Zephyrians respected strength above everything else, but they defined strength differently than humans did. To Zephyrians, strength meant having better weapons and more soldiers. They did not understand that humans saw strength as the ability to solve problems and survive impossible situations. David walked into the section where Commander Vextar and his last warriors were trapped. He was not wearing armor or carrying weapons. He looked like exactly what he was, a teenager in casual clothes. "Commander Vextar," David said politely. "My name is David Park. I would like to discuss the terms of your surrender." The Zephyrian commander stared at him in disbelief. "You are a child. Where are your warriors?" "I am the warrior," David said calmly. "I am the one who has been changing the ship's layout to keep you lost. I am the one who programmed the sounds that have been driving your soldiers crazy. I am the one who convinced your empire to abandon you." Vextar raised his weapon. "Impossible. You are just a human child." David touched his earpiece. "Athena, please demonstrate." The walls around them suddenly became transparent, showing the rest of the ship. Thousands of humans were going about their daily lives, working in laboratories, growing food in gardens, teaching children in schools, living normal, peaceful lives while a war was happening just a few corridors away. "This is what strength looks like, Commander," David said. 50,000 humans living their lives while 20 of your elite warriors could not capture a single room. We did not even interrupt our daily schedule to fight you. Vexatar slowly lowered his weapon. For the first time, he was beginning to understand what kind of species he had tried to conquer. They stole a human colony ship. The aliens never had a chance. Commander Vextar sat in what the humans called a conference room. It had soft chairs, warm lighting, and a table covered with food from both human and Zephyrian cultures. 3 weeks ago, he had been leading an elite raiding force. Now he was trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. Across from him sat Captain Chen, Dr. Wright, and the teenager who had convinced him to surrender. David Park looked even younger in normal lighting, but Vextar had learned not to judge humans by their appearance. Your empire is planning to invade human space, Captain Chen said quietly. Our intelligence shows they have assembled a fleet of 300 warships. Vextar nodded. There was no point in denying it. The High Council believes humans are weak. One small colony ship should have been easy to capture. When we return with your technology and slaves, the invasion will begin. Except you are not returning with anything, David pointed out. You lost 20 elite warriors to a bunch of farmers and scientists. What do you think 300 warships will accomplish against Earth's entire military? Dr. Wright leaned forward. Commander, I have been studying your psychological profiles for 3 weeks. Your people have never failed to conquer a species before. You do not know how to handle defeat. We are not defeated, Vextar said automatically. We are just temporarily disadvantaged. Chen smiled sadly. Commander, your ship left 2 days ago. They thought you were all dead. No one is coming to rescue you. This was not entirely true. The Zephyrian ship was still nearby, but the humans had been jamming all communications. From the aliens' perspective, their boarding party had simply vanished. After waiting for a week with no contact, they had assumed the worst and departed for home. Vextar felt something he had never experienced before, complete hopelessness. His warriors were prisoners. His mission was a failure. His empire would blame him for losing an entire raiding force to a species they thought was harmless. What happens to us now? He asked quietly. That depends on you, Chen replied. We can send you home in an escape pod with a message for your empire, or you can stay here and learn something new. Learn what? David answered. How to live with other species instead of conquering them. Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Vasquez was having the most important conversation of her career. She was talking to Earth Command through the modified Zephyrian communication system. Admiral Sarah Torres appeared on the screen, looking tired but determined. Elena, I need you to tell me everything about Zephyrian biology, Torres said. If we are going to fight these bastards, we need every advantage we can get. Admiral, I do not think you understand, Elena replied. We should not be planning to fight them. We should be planning to change them. Torres raised an eyebrow. Explain. The Zephyrians are not evil. They are just scared. Their entire culture is based on taking from others because they think it is the only way to survive. But when we showed them a different way, some of them became interested. Elena turned the camera to show the ship's common area. Several Zephyrian prisoners were sitting with human families, sharing meals and trying to communicate despite the language barrier. They looked relaxed and happy for the first time since their capture. Kreltos, the second-in-command, asked if he could stay when we offered to send him home, Elena continued. He said he wants to learn how humans build things instead of just stealing them. 2 other warriors made the same request. Torres looked skeptical. And you trust them? Admiral, these people have been living freely on our ship for a week. They could have tried to cause damage or take hostages. Instead, they have been helping with maintenance work and learning human languages. I think they genuinely want a change. Chief Engineer Rosa Okafor had her own conversation with Earth Command. She was talking to Admiral Rodriguez, the head of Earth's Military Research Division. Rosa, how much of their technology can we duplicate? Rodriguez asked. All of it, Rosa replied confidently. Their weapons are more advanced than ours, but they are not more intelligent than ours. I have already built working copies of their plasma rifles and energy shields. She held up a device that looked like a cross between a human tablet and Zephyrian armor. This is a hybrid communication system that uses both human and alien technology. It can send messages across the galaxy instantly. How long would it take to equip our entire military? If we work with the Zephyrian prisoners who volunteered to help. 6 months for basic equipment, 2 years for advanced systems. Rodriguez looked amazed. They are willing to help us build weapons to fight their own people? They are not fighting their own people, Rosa corrected. They are trying to prevent a war that will hurt everyone. The Zephyrians who stayed here believe their empire is making a mistake. Lisa Volkov was working on the most ambitious project of her young life. She was trying to hack into the Zephyrian Empire's main communication network. If she could succeed, the humans could send a message directly to the Alien High Council. The security is incredible, she told Captain Chen, but it is designed to keep other aliens out, not humans. Our computer languages work differently than theirs. How long do you need? Give me 3 more days. I have been working with Kreltos to understand their system architecture. He knows passwords and security codes that should make this possible. Chen looked concerned. Are you sure we can trust him with something this important? Lisa nodded. Captain, Kreltos could have given us false information that would fry our computers. Instead, he has been teaching me their programming languages. He wants this to work as much as we do. Dr. Wright was conducting group therapy sessions with all the Zephyrian prisoners. It was the strangest assignment of his career, but also the most important. He was trying to help traumatized alien soldiers understand a completely different way of thinking about life. In Zephyrian culture, taking resources from others is seen as natural, he explained to Captain Chen. It is how they have survived for thousands of years, but they have never encountered a species that could defend itself so effectively while still showing kindness. Are they adapting to our way of thinking? Some of them are. Kreltos and 2 others have asked about staying permanently. They want to help prevent the invasion. But Commander Vextar is struggling. He has been trained since childhood to be a warrior. Learning to be a diplomat is very difficult for him. Wright paused. But I think he wants to try. Yesterday he asked me to teach him about human conflict resolution. He said he wants to understand how we solve problems without violence. The breakthrough came on the 25th day of the occupation. Lisa finally cracked the Zephyrian communication network. For the first time in galactic history, humans could speak directly to the leaders of another interstellar empire. Captain Chen stood in front of the main communication screen. On the other side of space, the Zephyrian High Council was gathered, in their capital city. 5 alien leaders stared at him with expressions ranging from shock to fury. Greetings, Chen said politely in carefully practiced Zephyrian language. I am Captain Marcus Chen of the human colony ship New Horizon. I believe you have been looking for some of your people. High Counselor Drakvan spoke first. Where is Commander Vextar? What have you done with our warriors? They are safe and well cared for, Chen replied. In fact, some of them would like to speak with you. The screen split to show Commander Vextar looking healthier and more relaxed than he had in years. High Counselor, I must report that our assumptions about humans were incorrect. Explain, Drakvan demanded. They are not weak, they are not primitive, and they are not helpless. We attacked 50,000 humans with 20 of our best warriors. We captured 0 humans and lost all 20 warriors. The humans defeated us without killing a single one of us. Another counselor, Sektar, snarled, Impossible! You must have been outnumbered. We were outnumbered, Vextar agreed. But that is not why we lost. We lost because humans fight differently than any species we have encountered. They do not just use weapons. They use their entire environment as a weapon. Their ships are alive. Their children are warriors. Their scientists are generals. Chen took control of the conversation. High Counselors, we know about your invasion plans. We have captured your technology. We have analyzed your tactics. And we have sent all of this information to our homeworld. The alien leaders looked stunned. They had thought their invasion plans were secret. But, Chen continued, we do not want to fight you. We would like to make a different offer. They stole a human colony ship. The aliens never had a chance. 6 months later, the New Horizon entered orbit around Kepler 442b. But it was no longer just a human colony ship. The vessel now carried representatives from 12 different species, including 50 Zephyrian volunteers who had come to help build the galaxy's first integrated settlement. Captain Chen stood on the observation deck, watching the beautiful blue and green planet rotate slowly below them. Beside him stood Commander Vex Tar, who now wore a mixture of human and Zephyrian clothing. The former raider had become the colony's chief of security and interspecies relations. "I still cannot believe this worked," Vex Tar said in much improved human English. "When you first suggested cooperation instead of conquest, I thought you were insane." Chen smiled. "The best human ideas usually sound insane at first. That's how we know they might actually work." The transformation had not been easy. When Captain Chen offered the Zephyrian High Council a choice between war and partnership, the alien leaders had been suspicious and angry. They had spent centuries building an empire based on taking from others. The idea of working together seemed like weakness, but the evidence was impossible to ignore. The humans had captured Zephyrian technology and improved it. They had defeated elite warriors without killing anyone. Most shocking of all, they had turned enemy soldiers into willing allies. High Counselor Drakvan had demanded proof that cooperation could be more valuable than conquest. Chen had given him exactly that proof. Dr. Elena Vasquez had worked with Zephyrian scientists to create new medical technologies that combined the best of both species' knowledge. Human creativity merged with Zephyrian precision produced treatments for diseases that had plagued both civilizations for generations. Chief Engineer Rosa Okafor had collaborated with alien engineers to design faster-than-light engines that were twice as efficient as anything either species had built alone. The new engines used human adaptive programming with Zephyrian quantum mechanics. Most importantly, Lisa Volkov had established a communication network that connected dozens of worlds in real time. Species that had never spoken to each other were now sharing information, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges. The Zephyrian Empire had called off its invasion plans after seeing what cooperation could accomplish. Instead of 300 warships heading to destroy human worlds, they had sent 50 science vessels to establish joint research stations. But the real change had happened in the hearts and minds of individuals. Kreltos, the former second-in-command, had become one of the colony's most popular teachers. He was showing human children how to build advanced technology while learning about human art and music. "The children adapt so quickly," Kreltos told Dr. Wright during one of their regular conversations. "Human children ask questions about everything. Zephyrian children are taught to follow orders. Your way produces much more creativity." Dr. Wright nodded. "What will you tell Zephyrian parents when they visit the colony?" "That maybe we have been raising our children wrong for a very long time. The planet below was perfect for their new kind of settlement. It had vast continents with different climates and environments. Some areas would be ideal for human agriculture. Others suited Zephyrian mineral extraction. Still others would work well for the various alien species that had asked to join the colony. David Park, now 18 and the colony's youngest department head, was in charge of planetary development. He had designed a settlement plan that would let different species live according to their needs while working together on shared projects. "The beauty of this approach," he explained to the Colonial Council, "is that diversity makes us stronger. Humans are good at adaptation and problem-solving. Zephyrians excel at precision engineering. The Altarian refugees we rescued are amazing at biotechnology. When we combine all these strengths, we can build things that no single species could create alone." The first settlement was built in just 3 months, using construction techniques that blended technologies from 6 different worlds. The buildings could adapt their internal environments for different species. The power systems used both human fusion reactors and Zephyrian crystal batteries. The transportation network employed Altarian living machines that could grow new roots as needed. But the most remarkable thing about the colony was not its technology. It was how naturally the different species worked together. Human farmers taught Zephyrian engineers how to grow food in alien soil. Zephyrian warriors showed human children how to build defensive systems that protected without harming. Altarian biotechnicians helped both species develop medicines that worked for multiple types of biology. Commander Vex Tar had become something he never thought possible, a diplomat. His job was to help new species integrate into the colony. His military background helped him understand the fears and concerns of warrior cultures, while his months living with humans had taught him the value of peaceful cooperation. Every species thinks they must choose between being predators or prey, he explained to a group of newly arrived Corvan refugees. Humans showed us there is a third option, being partners. The Corvan delegation leader, a being that looked like a cross between a bear and a lizard, growled skeptically. Pretty words. But what happens when resources become scarce? What happens when there is not enough for everyone? Vextar led them to the colony's main resource center. Instead of stockpiles of materials being hoarded by different groups, they saw sophisticated recycling systems that turned waste from one species into useful materials for another. Human food scraps became fertilizer for Zephyrian crystal gardens. Zephyrian manufacturing byproducts became raw materials for Altarian biomachines. Scarcity is usually a failure of imagination, Vexitar said. When species work together instead of competing, there is always enough. Dr. Elena Vasquez had established the galaxy's first interspecies medical school. Students from dozens of worlds came to learn how to treat patients who might be completely different from their own species. The school's motto was, "Life is life, regardless of its form." One of her most promising students was a young Zephyrian named Teklos, who had been inspired by the humans' refusal to kill their enemies even in wartime. "I want to learn how to heal instead of harm," he had told Elena. "My people have forgotten that life is precious." Chief Engineer Rosa Okafor was running what she jokingly called the galaxy's most diverse engineering department. Her team included humans, Zephyrians, Altarians, Corvans, and 3 other species. They were working on projects that would have been impossible for any single civilization. Their latest creation was a new type of starship that could adapt its structure for different purposes. It could serve as a transport vessel, a research station, a hospital ship, or even a mobile colony. The design used human flexibility, Zephyrian strength, and Altarian self-repair capabilities. "This ship represents everything our colony stands for," Rosa explained to a group of visitors from Earth. "It's not just human technology or alien technology. It's something entirely new that could only exist through cooperation." Lisa Volkov, now 20, had become the galaxy's foremost expert on interspecies communication systems. Her networks connected thousands of worlds, allowing instant communication across the galaxy. But her greatest achievement was creating translation software that could handle not just different languages, but different ways of thinking. "The hardest part is not translating words," she explained to a conference of galactic linguists. "It's translating concepts. How do you explain human humor to a species that communicates through color changes? How do you describe Zephyrian honor to beings that make decisions collectively?" The colony had become famous throughout the galaxy as proof that different species could live together peacefully. Delegations came from hundreds of worlds to study their methods. Some species that had been enemies for centuries began talking about peace treaties, but the humans never forgot that their success had started with a failed alien raid. In the colony's central square stood a monument that told the story of how 20 Zephyrian warriors had tried to steal a human ship and accidentally started a galactic alliance. The inscription read, "They came to take our ship. We gave them a home. They came to steal our technology. We taught them to build better technology. They came to enslave us. We set them free to become more than they ever imagined possible." Commander Vextar often stood in front of that monument thinking about how much his life had changed. A year ago, he had been a simple soldier who followed orders and conquered worlds. Now he was helping to build something that had never existed before, a truly peaceful galactic civilization. Captain Chen found him there one evening, watching the sunset paint the alien sky in brilliant colors. "Any regrets?" Chen asked. Vextar considered the question carefully. "I regret that it took so long for our species to meet. I regret that we tried to conquer you instead of learning from you. But I do not regret the raid itself." "Why not?" "Because if we had never attacked your ship, we would never have discovered what cooperation could accomplish. Sometimes the best things come from the worst mistakes." Chen nodded, watching ships from a dozen different worlds coming and going from the colony's spaceport.